That's just us. Okay. Hey guys, here we are, day 5 of our movement challenge. It's been such a great week. Thank you for being here. We've covered so much. We've had amazing feedback. If you have more feedback for me, I love hearing from you. It just really fuels me. I love hearing the questions that you have, the things that you're starting to see with your kids. I absolutely love getting that feedback. So please continue to send it our way. With this challenge, my main goal for you guys was to educate you on that development of the brain and give you knowledge and movements that you can apply. So how do you feel? Do you feel like you're feeling the shift? Are you feeling the mindset change? Can you feel the impact of the knowledge? Are you ready to put it into action? Because number 2, I really want to see that knowledge is great, right? But we have to be able to put it into action, and keeping in mind that these small things that we're doing, even if it's just something as simple as I leave my car seat in the car now, I take baby out and I put him in my carrier, or I'm really, making sure that I'm taking every opportunity that I can to get my child some type of vestibular movement. Just know that you're making those small deposits every single day. You're going to have an exponential neural return on that. And you're going to see that in the brilliance of your child. And so with this knowledge, we get to be proactive and preventative and making sure that we're not having to see the negative results of us missing out on these amazing opportunities. You're arming yourself with knowledge, and it's going to pay off way in the end with that. So let's move on, and let's just take a real quick second to recap what we've covered. We've covered so much. Day 1, we talked about movement, how it's the brain's first language, that we talked about spinning. We talked about on day 2, how these movements directly impact those gross motor milestones. And we did inversions, training posture and balance. Day 3, we talked about primitive reflexes, one of my favorite topics. And we did ball work and core to integrate that core and reflexes as well. And we did a giveaway. We got to give away one of my brain building checklists. So hopefully you're already getting to implement that. And day 4, we talked about primitive babies, just how we were actually designed to be raised, right? And swinging, and how that repetition and rhythm builds the brain. And today we are going to do another giveaway. So stay online today, because I'm going to be giving something away. Anyways, and so today we're going to connect all of this intelligence, whether it is on the field or in the classroom. And then we're going to finish up today with one more power move. Remember, this challenge is developed to build each day. So here it is, day 5. If you've missed any of these days, go back and watch them. We have those videos available to you until Sunday at 11:59 Eastern Standard Time. And if you don't feel like you're going to be able to get to them and you really want this information, we still do have that VIP offer. It's $49 to keep those access to those videos for a lifetime. So let's quickly recap some of the big concepts that we've covered in the last few days. So first off, The first day we really talked about that importance of the brain, right? And that the development of the brain, and that we would develop from the brainstem up to the midbrain and into the cortex, where we can actually learn things. The faster we get there, the more neural pathways that are going to take place, the easier that it is to get information in. Yesterday for your child is always easier than today. So those neuron pathways are shutting down each day. So it's really important, the earlier that we get there, the better that it is for our child overall. We understand that movement is the first language. We talked about that just a second ago, but it is the first language for the body. And we want to make sure that they can get there to crush those milestones. I shared my favorite analogy about early brain development and how it's much like compound interest. Making those small deposits of movement gives you exponential neural returns, right? The earlier that you invest, the greater the growth of the curve. So the greater the influence, the greater the impact that that's going to make on your child's overall health and development. We also talked about how these vestibular movements are building the brain for milestones, and then again, how milestones go and in turn build the brain. And so where every upgrade and balance is rewiring the brain for more complex control and confidence. We know that we go from, not being able to even hold our head up to being able to balance on 4 legs, right, with crawling, and then we get up to 2 legs, and then we're going to advance our balance just like that. We also talked about how milestones have that domino effect. Each milestone knocks the next one down, and if something gets skipped or is weak in that process, the chain slows or can even stop, right? And so all these milestones are feeding the brain, maturing the brain, and helping us get to the cortex where we can truly take in information, where our kids can really actually learn things, which I think is so important. And really, we're creating that lifelong love for learning, which is one of the best gifts that we can give kids. Okay. And so then we talked on day 3 about primitive reflexes. We talked about how these funny, crazy things that babies are wired with for survival, if we stimulate them, that they're actually working to build that brain and really getting a lot of information in that way. You got to see my slide obsession, right? With the reflexes and how cool they are. I just think they're so fun. It's something that, we don't see in anything but newborn babies and those little babies. And so it's really cool to get to work with those, integrate the brain, and actually in real time be able to see that purposeful brain development. We're upgrading the brain software with movement. Yesterday, we got to talk about how there's a full profession around integrating primitive reflexes and integrating, getting the child brain satisfied with vestibular movements. The OTs are made to do that. And I think it's awesome to have that profession. I love knowing that, we can always still upgrade the brain if we did miss things back. But what we're passionate about here at Building Brilliant Brains is that ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's a chiropractic mindset. This is the way I live my life. But when it comes to raising our kids, why not be proactive? Why not be armed with the knowledge to get us in a place where we don't have to treat something later on? And this is the stuff we've been learning all week, right? It's just how to stimulate the brain, how to mature it properly. And so then we also looked at our ancestors and how did our ancestors raise babies? How they were carrying them in their arms. They were wrapped into slings. They were getting constantly swayed, jostled, rocked, lots of skin-to-skin contact. If they weren't on a mom or on a person, then they were on a ground, right? They were on the floor, learning how to roll, learning how to crawl, learning how to push, learning how to creep. This builds brains like crazy, right? And so with the constant vestibular stimulation, we also see that that these kids were not placed in containers. They didn't experience what we now call container syndrome, right? And so, man, we have covered a lot in 5 days. Thank you for being here. If you missed any of this, go back and make sure that you catch those videos before they come down. The reason I take them down is because I know if there's not that timeline, then we don't typically watch them. If I know I have all day or all forever to do it, it just doesn't make it a priority. So this is just a good way to push you to really get this knowledge while it's available to you, because this knowledge will really be something that truly impacts your life and the life of your children. So I'm so grateful that you came along for this ride. I'm so grateful for what you've learned so far. And I am so excited to share with what we have going on today. So let's get into it. And remember, I'm going to be doing that giveaway later. So stick with me, and we're gonna have a lot of fun today. So let's work to optimize that child's potential. We've talked a lot about our children's potential, and that they have the potential to do things that we honestly aren't expecting of a 3-month-old, a 5-month-old, right? But when we expose them to different kind of environment, we know that children are a product of their environment, and therefore we've got to give them, and as parents, we got to expose them to the things that we need. We want to be here. That we've seen that vestibular input and movement helps our children multiply their intelligence, not only intellectually, but also physically. We can create a physically superb child by working with this vestibular input. So today we want to take that to a deeper level. Okay. So we're going to move into intellectual mastery and physical mastery, and how the brain actually is built. These things are built on the same foundation, which is why this is so important when our kids are little, because as parents, right, knowing our kids are that product of our environment, we want to give our kids the best opportunities, right? It's so important that we give them the best opportunities, and the best gift that you can give a child is giving a body or a brain that is primed for intellect and primed for physical excellence. And so that's what I want you to understand that we are doing as we are getting these babies moving. I'm going to make this one a little bit bigger because I want you guys to be able to see this, but we want to show you that these movements are helping children move from movement to mastery. So let's take a deeper look at each of these movements and how they actually impact not only our intellectual intelligence, but also the physical intelligence. So spinning trains the hand-eye coordination and visual tracking, which is going to be important for sports, but it also supports reading and copying from a board. Like there's way more benefits, but just to understand, inversions strengthens our head writing and posture, but it also supports focus and sitting still and attention, which is going to be so important when we're in school. Ball work, when we're on that ball, we're working on the core and bilateral coordination, but these things support handwriting, desk work, fine motor control. Then swinging develops that rhythm and timing and regulation, but that supports our language, our reading and fluency, and our self-control. Flying, which is what we're going to get into today, trains prediction and courage and body organization, and this supports problem solving, sports skills, and confidence. So it's crazy to think that we are always training both, right? Because these two things are lined so deeply together that we have to understand that we're actually working both sides of this, which is really cool. There's two kinds of intelligence, one foundation when we're talking about this with the vestibular piece. So we often separate kids into the smart kids and the sporty kids, but physical and intellectual intelligence, especially when they're little, are the foundation one and the same, okay? And so when we look at a well-organized vestibular system and cerebellar system, that's gonna help them be good in school and good at sports. So when we train balance early, we're not just building sporty kids. Like that's not the point, right? We're also working on training brains that can focus, have time sequencing, and can self-correct, which is really important for overall intelligence. And so the same wiring that lets a kid jump and land is the same wiring that's going to allow them to track the text as they're reading, and stay on with a math problem. And so why not give your children both, right? With vestibular movements, like that's why this is so important. So we're doing vestibular movements to optimize children's potential overall, whether it's in academics or athletics or both. By optimizing the vestibular system, we're priming their bodies in each category. So we're priming their bodies and their brains. A well-turned balance system supports reading, attention, and running and tumbling and ball skills. So let's get into it. I love athletes. Like that's something that we're pretty passionate in my family. My husband was a college basketball player, so athletics is always something that we are excited to introduce to our children. So, but one thing that is so cool, and as I've started to studying more vestibular movements, especially as my oldest one, who's 7, is getting older and getting more involved in sports. Baseball is his favorite, but he loves all sports. And so it's really fun to see as you start to study athletes and how important balance is. Okay. And so you can see this is Tom Brady. He's working on one side. You can see all of those balance movements. You're going to see gymnasts, like they live on balance beams. Skiers and boarders are going to be on wobble boards. Baseball players and soccer players are going to be doing tons of one-legged work. They're going to all be throwing off their stability and regaining that stability, training their brains, because that makes a massive difference in overall athleticism. And so sharpening vestibular and cerebellar systems when building the right movements are going to make a massive difference in your child overall. So when I'm home with my kids, I do homeschool my kids. Specifically Alex, when I'm working my oldest one with flashcards, a lot of times I'll put him on some type of balance board. He gets real frustrated at first, but as he starts working on it, man, his brain is connecting. His brain makes connections with those math problems that much faster. I would say he learns his math cards 30% faster, if not more, when I have him on a balance board, training him at home. He gets those cards down so much quicker when we've made more connections in the brain when it comes to those math problems. So balance can also be a tool to accelerate learning. When we talk about balance is the superpower behind every sport. A child has to be able to hold their center of gravity in order to pivot, cut, change directions. It's going to make a child so much faster. A steady, strong core is going to be more efficient running, which is really important. And good balance allows them to jump and absorb and land safely instead of loading joints, which I think is another really important thing. If you have zero desire in your child being an athlete at all, being safe on the playground is really important. And with the more vestibular input that you give your child, you're wiring their system for safety and body control. So understanding that whether we're on the playground, we're just playing on bikes and scooters, your child's going to be safer if they have a strong vestibular system. And so let's look into a few sports. I just want you to understand this on a little bit deeper level, why training the vestibular system is creating physical mastery in the system. And so when it comes to pivoting and cutting, tons of different sports, soccer, basketball, tennis, all of these sports are going to be talking specifically about like getting that pivot going. It's a quick direction change. And when we see that quick direction change, it challenges these balance challenges challenge the inner ear to update the brain quickly, right? And it gives our body this really incredible awareness about where it is in space. And that's what allows us to plant, cut, pivot in sports like basketball, soccer, tennis, lacrosse. So let's go on to speed. Speed is important in almost every single sport, right? It's truly helpful in every sport there is. With speed, you have to have a stable core and a steady head, and that's how you have that fast, smooth motion, which is obviously going to make you quicker. So the rhythmic movements like swinging, ball work, and flying help the brain like get that head steadiness, right? And they create a quick body alignment, which is really important. And so that's going to make the mechanics for speed optimized. When we look at jumping and landing, again, this is kind of where we talk a little bit about how much safer our kids are when they're really good at jumping and landing. So we got to give our children the opportunity. Plus, not to mention, like jumping, like does stress the bone, which is really good. It's going to make it stronger so that the next time they jump a little bit higher, the bones are already strong and well equipped for these movements. So when we look at jumping and landing, inversions, flying games, bouncing, teaches the brain to judge the height, to have understand the force and understand the gravity that's going into their body. Kids learn how to tuck, how to extend, and how to absorb impact. So jumping becomes powerful and actually safe for your child. So you're going to see that in sports like volleyball, gymnastics, basketball, figure skating. There's so many sports that obviously involve jumping with that as well. So then there's ball skills. most sports involve some kind of ball. And so this is going to give a lot of body control, a lot of hand-eye coordination, which is really important, and working with the ball at the same time. So how this works vestibularly, spinning, crawling, and balance work to build the ability to keep your eyes steady while the ball is moving. And so that's the foundation for tracking, for being able to catch balls, for being able to throw, kicking, any kind of taekwondo, and aiming with accuracy, which is really important in all of these different kinds of sports, right? So sports such as baseball, softball, handball, water polo, pickleball, tennis, all these ball sports, we want to help our kids integrate that. If your child has zero interest in sports, or maybe you have zero interest for your child to be involved in sports, this is still important because of the protection and injury prevention that takes place. When we have better balance, when our kids have better body control, there's fewer injuries. This is worth it, right? And so how that works is spinning, inversion, swinging the ball, or swinging ball work, all of these different kinds of vestibular movements that we've been talking about all week and that are in my Milestone Mastery, Milestone Masters playbook, that with just filled with more vestibular exercises. They're all working to, create those righting reflexes and allowing more body control so that we can play more organized sports if you want to, or just have less awkward landings and less joint strain, right? And so when we look at this, like, even if your child is not going to become a competitive athlete, these vestibular movements are so important. So let's get into our movement for today. Okay. So today we have talked about, we've already learned 4 of our 5 core vestibular movements. We've talked about spinning, inversion, ball, and swinging. Today we are going to get into flying. The way that I've split these up, it's separated into stages, right? We've taken the quiz. We understand what stage we're training. It doesn't mean that we can't go outside of that stage. All these movements are appropriate for this stage that I've recommended them for, but it doesn't mean they're not appropriate at other stages as well, which is really fun. So I have organized them in this way so that we have a lot of variety. And I also created the Milestone Masters playbook, which is a vestibular program that goes stage by stage so that you keep things fresh, that you keep things progressing, because these exercises are progressive in nature in a lot of ways. So let's talk about flying and the benefits of flying. Flying, I know, well, I'll give you tons of examples of this, but flying is pure fun, but it's also a very serious training for the brain. Okay, so when we lift and swoop our children, like we're airplaning them around the world, their inner ear is getting this powerful message about speed, direction, and gravity. The brain has to figure out, where am I? Where am I moving? Right? Like where can I keep myself so that as the velocity is changing, how do I keep my body in a good place? Every swoop refines their balance, their body awareness, and their core control. So flying adds acceleration and deceleration. That quick whoosh up and down, it is huge for the cerebellum and the cortex. And the brain has to predict what's coming. The prediction is a huge piece of what we're experiencing when it comes to flying. And so and you also have to be able to organize your body mid-air, which is really fun. These predictive timings can be used later for catching balls, for jumping, for reading music, and even taking in information in a classroom really quickly. So every time you toss a child up into the air, anytime you're making some of these joyful flying movements, we're stimulating courage, coordination, and regulation all at once to make sure that we are having a fun way to train our baby's brain. So when we look at this, what do we look for in our child? We want to see, number one, that anticipation. We want to see that they almost like a bracing in their body where they feel like, oh my gosh, what is coming? That's really important in these flying exercises. You're going to see body organization. You're going to see them reorganize themselves mid-flight. They're going to make little adjustments, whether it's to their head or to their core. You're going to feel that as they're going, especially early on, but you're also going to see that as they're jumping off of different surfaces and things like that. You want to see that adaptation taking place because that's their brain processing the experience, which is really an important piece of what is happening here. And then you want to see the recovery at the end, right? We want to pay attention to their recovery post big scoop or launch. Like, are they coming back to you calm? Are they saying, I want it again? Are they wanting more of that? Are they feeling joy? Are they experiencing that emotional regulation? Having the excitement and then coming back into a regulated state is a really amazing benefit when it comes to these flying exercises. So now it is time to show you guys these. I just have a doll today, and so I think that this will be an awesome way to experience this. So we're going to start. Let me just get you in here so you're able to see everything. So I've got my baby down here. I have slippers on, so let me take those off. And we are going to get first into flying with a tiny baby, right? And so stage one, you're going to take baby, and even if they're a little bit flappy, being just on your back and being able to bring them over your body, just like this, and back and forth. You can, I know we talked about allowing baby to like actually jump off of you, but for this one, I'm just going to fly them back and forth and over your body just in that exact way. Super fun, super easy way to get some really great vestibular movement into those true newborns, the babies that are pretty floppy in that way. This one is honestly one of my favorites. Is just flying your child around. Now they've got a little bit more head control, right? And so you want to take them around and be like, oh, you see, I'm gonna put this over here. Hey, baby, do you see this crazy little brain? Oh, I guess you guys can't see that. But being able to fly them around the house and say, oh, here's the stove, and here's the plates that we're going to get out. And like, you know, I love to take them outside and be like, here's a flower, and here's what that flower smells like. But bringing them on this horizontal plane and flying them through the air, it allows them to experience gravity on that horizontal plane, but also experience all of those vestibular movements that are going to feed into the system in that exact way, which is super helpful in getting that vestibular input overall. This next one is a really fun one. My kids all loved this exercise, but you can put them right. You're going to put your baby right. Oh, let me get my camera in the better position. Putting your baby right on your shin. Let me just get into a little bit better position. Putting baby right on your shins. You can hold their hands here and coming up and down like this. They think it's like a ride. And it's a great way to really get a lot of fun into them. You can, if you even want to, you can even put them a little bit of a flip for them if they want to. Most babies love to flip at this age. So being able to just move their body, it just depends on how floppy your baby is at this point, but that's going to build up a lot of strength, a lot of core. And it's a super fun exercise. Moving on to the wobbly walkies. Okay, so I'm going to show you this guy. This is where, some people are a little bit against like being able to kind of toss your kids onto soft surfaces, but rough play, there's tons of research on rough play and how important it is for that vestibular movement. My kids, especially my two boys, my husband would come home and they would always be like, hey, Dad, can we rough? Can we rough? Can we rough? And that's what they were talking about. They wanted him to throw them into like the couch or on a soft mat or whatever. And so what's really cool with this one is you can fly your baby. Let's pretend this is a couch cushion and there's a nice soft backing here, right? And you can throw them in and you can just bring them back here and then toss them a little bit. Give them a little bit of like that impact. Give them a little bit of that proprioceptive input into their system. They love it. They're going to laugh. They're going to crack up. They think it's so much fun. So being able to add in, a little bit of flying into it, but just then being able to toss them into a soft surface, a bean bag. I'm trying to think of what other things we've done onto the bed. That's another thing that's great right before bed, just to give that vestibular system a little bit more input to calm the brain before a child goes to bed. A great exercise to add to any bedtime. This next one, I actually did this with my daughter this morning, and she thinks this one is so funny. Always asks for more of this one. And so this one's going to give you a little bit more movement. We're going to bring baby up onto your feet. And obviously, if their arms were a little bit longer than this, you can extend those feet all the way out. I like to hold their hands but you can again go front and back. You can go back and forth. And then I know with her this morning, we also did a little bit of a flip over this way, which kids just love to flip. And especially if parents are doing it with them, they think it's so much fun. This next one is just simply tossing your child in the air. Tossing your child in the air is really fun because you've got a lot of control. Obviously, always know your own surroundings, know your own capabilities. Are you strong enough to do this? Like that's really important. But being able to give your kid a little bit of time in the air is number one, fun, but number two, so good for the brain. They have so many calculations to be making when they're up in the air, knowing that, and that trust piece. So just being able to like look at them up right in the face, it's really important to be able to see that they're having a blast and having a good time. But tossing that baby up and down just like that is really fun. I also, at this stage, at Sweetie Sprinties, you can also do a little bit of twisting like this too. And kids really think that's a blast as well. So just make sure you feel good. I always like make sure my nails aren't too long because you don't want to hit them in the face with that. But these are some really fun exercises to do with your kids. The next one, this one's going to be a little bit harder for me to show you guys, but honestly, a kid being able to jump into your arms or jumping off a higher surface makes a huge difference. So you want to be able to like, again, that's where that predictability comes in, right? So if they're standing up, I know this is a tiny baby, but if they're standing up and you're being here and, you know, at first you can hold on to them, but give them that opportunity to fully jump, to fully have that experience of being, again, airborne with nothing touching them. That's where a lot of that calculation comes in. I also think it's really important not even to always just be jumping into your arms, but starting off on a smaller surface and working their way up and just jumping straight off into like safer places, right? Like whether it's a mat or if you're outside and they can jump like off of a surface onto the grass. All of those calculations of force and gravity, they need to understand that because I always tell my kids, I'm like, as long as you feel in control, if you feel good about it, you know, go ahead and try it, you know, and it gives them that ability to do some of those calculations in their mind on their own. The last thing I wanted to show you guys is I love a little trampoline. I did bring this one in. And so there's tons of different trampolines out there. The little Tykes one might be my favorite. I did have a friend give me this cute little frog one as well. So especially since I had a teeny tiny baby as my model here. So here they'll be able to fly. I love they were able to stabilize themselves on the bar, jumping, bringing those legs up. That's what my daughter was doing this morning, was just, you know, really bringing those feet up into the air and getting that vestibular input. As kids get older, it's more about the things that we give to them for their environment so that they can feed themselves on these vestibular movements. So the more things that we have in our environment that are there made to like build their brains, the easier that it is, because honestly, they are going to feed themselves with this stuff because their brain wants it. Their brain needs it. It's really important for them to be able to have those opportunities specifically so that, you know, it's not all on parents, right? So your homework for today is to do 1 to 3 minutes of flying with your child or allowing them to do that, whether it's like airplane rides or elevators, like what we were showing you here, or being able to jump to. Watch for the intelligence emotion, watch the anticipation. You want to see that body organization and the recovery. Are they wanting to do it again and again and again? And your last piece of the homework is I want you guys to take all this information and start to build a program of daily movement into your daily life. Okay, weave these movements into your daily experiences. So what's that going to look like? Are you going to do them every time you do a diaper change? What does that look like? If you don't want to take the time to organize them or, you know, create a program and put it all together, that's something that I've done for you guys. So I have a couple of programs that we've put together. I put together 2 programs. And the reason I did this is because I've been there. I wanted to do all this stuff. I had all of this knowledge, but it wasn't organized. I couldn't figure out how do I make sure it's so much stuff to get in. And this is just one pillar, right? We've learned one pillar. And so I designed the brain building 5-minute routine. It's literally adds 2 to 3 minutes, whether it's to your diaper change, which is typically when we like to do it, or at any time in the day, but you want to do it several times throughout the day. And so this gives you this program is designed. I'm just going to read this to you so that you really have like a good understanding. It's an innovative solution that transforms either diaper changes or other times of your day into engaging and developmental experiences for your little one. This stuff it's based on the Doman program, Fit Baby, Smart Baby, Your Baby, and we have designed these progressive routines that create convenience but child development all in one. This kit is going to have the checklist. You can see there's different kinds of flashcards that go with it, as well as other activities. So it's going to provide links to any of the resources that you might need. Most of the tools that you're going to need are actually going to be in your household. But if you need any of those items, we have the Amazon links. They're very easily and readily available to you. These come as downloads. You can see here is our diaper changing checklist is what I've called it in the past. And you can see what they're all developed for different age groups. But what we have now that we have the ability to show you the stages, that we have that like a translation guide for that as well. And so typically these, and this is what we gave away on Wednesday, but today I want to give away my balance program that unlocks and accelerates baby development. And it is really our Milestones Masters Playbook. It's also a digital download that's designed to guide parents through each stage of a baby's motor milestones, helping them get strong neural connections and physical skills through purposeful play and movement. And so with these exercises, they're tailored at each level, and your baby's going to develop coordination, strength, and confidence, fostering essential brain development and by achieving these gross milestones. And so that's so these programs are typically $60, and I've sold hundreds of these programs. But for you guys, I wanted to give you a great deal for being here and being with me. And so we're going to do 40% off any of these programs that you guys are interested in. And so you'll be getting a code for that later today. And today I want to go ahead and let me see if she's texted me or but who is Madison? If you can tell me who our winner is for today, I want to announce that. Maybe who's our winner for today? Okay, Madison. Okay. Oh, sorry. We have to enter your name into the chat. If you guys can enter your name into the chat, I will pick a winner. So there's a lot of people online right now. If you're interested in this, I'd love to be able to give one of these away. And like I said, if you're interested in that, otherwise, and I'm going to give you a second. I'm just while I'm giving everybody a chance to enter into the offer for a giveaway. I want to tell you guys. There's also still the option for our VIP. It does give you lifetime access to the videos from this challenge. I just know sometimes it's one of those things where you're like, oh, I want to remember that stuff, but if you didn't take great notes or if you didn't get to all of the videos, this is a great way to go with that. And we have additional discounts on our products with that VIP offer. And so we would love to be able to get you guys these products, get you action going forward to make sure that you can apply the knowledge that you've gathered from this challenge. I've had such a blast with you guys, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Madison, are you ready to pick somebody for us? Okay, we have Gina Lewin. So Gina, you will get our Milestone Masters Playbook. It's a great product to be able to really implement all of these vestibular movements and make sure that your child is developing properly and getting all the vestibular input that they need for optimal development. Guys, I've had such a blast this week, and thank you so much for all of your participation, all of your questions. We're going to get into a little bit of questions and answers now, but before that, just one last time, I have to make sure that after 5 days of being with me, that the one thing you take away is to understand that movement is not optional at any age. For those newborns, for our babies, for our 6-year-olds, for our 10-year-olds, for our 20-year-olds, for our 80-year-olds, for our 100-year-olds, like movement is not optional. It's a nutrient for the body, something that the body needs, something that the brain needs more than anything. It's going to keep our system stronger, smarter, and more physically superb. So next, I want to get into some questions. So okay, first question is, I'm throwing my 5.5-month-old stage 3. Is that okay? Does it go, or she doesn't go far from my hands at all? Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that having fun with your child, tossing your child into the air, it can definitely be done before I prescribed it specifically with the exercises today. Like I said, there's a lot of motion in that. A lot of people are worried, and I think that you guys will see this stuff online about shaken baby syndrome. Am I doing any damage to the baby's brain? I just want you to understand that is a violent movement that happens for a longer period of time is what does brain damage. And so these fun tosses, even if you go on the Shaken Baby Syndrome website, it will specifically say things like tossing your baby and having fun with your baby. If your baby is smiling and having a blast, guys, they are safe. They're having fun. They're loving it. So don't miss out on it because someone tells you like that's not safe, because it is safe and it's actually so good for your child's brain. So at 5.5 months old, absolutely. I threw my newborns around, obviously so watching their neck control, but because of the things I did when I was pregnant, my kids had crazy neck control starting off. So I felt comfortable doing that. So you have to just know, like I always say, trust that mama instinct. If it feels good to you, do it, and especially if your husbands want to do that too. Like I feel like dads are always a little bit more apt to want to go a rougher route. And I think it's really good for your child. So yeah, do it. All right. Can I use the exercises from the challenge for a child that has Prader-Willi syndrome before it has hypotonia? She's 8 months old now. Yes. So absolutely. So I think that it's, important to go ahead and take the quiz and find out what stage your child is at as far as their brain development goes, because even though your child is 8 months old, if there's a lot of hypotonia, then that oftentimes means that they're going to test as a brain level that's lower, right? And so I would go back and do the exercises that are like preferable at that specific stage, just to make sure that your baby stays safe. Because that's the reason of the progression, is I want to make sure that a lot of these things are easy and safe for children as they're progressing through. But also just remember that they need it. This child, like that hypotonia, like the brain is incredible, guys. Like they have the ability to reprogram the brain is neuroplastic, which means you can repath so many things, but we're a product of our environment. Therefore, we need to give them almost more. It's going to be, for your child, it's going to be more important to do these exercises and movements. And so check out Doman Institutes. They do have a book called something, your brain and your child. I can't remember exactly what it is, but how to take care of your brain and your child or something. And they prescribe things a little bit more frequently. And the timing on spending a lot of time on the floor is really important to build up that strength and that brain body connection. So that's a great resource. And you can always contact them too. They have incredible resources and classes available to really optimize your child, because it's incredible what they can do by developing that child's brain on purpose. So great question. Thank you. What movement is best for a 5-month-old to sleep? Oh, I would definitely say any type of swinging movement. A lot of proprioceptive input is really good. So just pressing into their joints a lot of the times, especially if they're like really fidgety and movie a lot before bed. That's really important. But I think that any of these vestibular movements are going to feed that specific part of the brain for sleep. But I would say swinging is going to be, I'm not sure, a 5-month-old. So if your child is sitting on their own, swing is going to be great. Otherwise, swinging them in your arms is going to give them a lot of really great input that's so calming. That rhythmic movement is so calming for the brain. Rocking is another great one, which is why we rock our babies to sleep. And so at 5 months old, I think that it's really just important to do a lot of those things like right before bed, just to make sure that if we haven't met that, almost like a need or quota in our brains for vestibular movement before we go to bed, then a lot of the times that's why kids are wild before bed, because they gotta get it all in before they go to sleep. And so just to make sure they hit that quota for their brain for the day. Great question. When did your child start reading or writing? So writing, I would say, is a little bit later. You do have to like kind of develop those skills as you're going through. But reading, I have my daughter right now, she's 2.5, and she can read some words. It depends on which ones, and depends on if she's in the mood. She definitely is too. But my middle child, he started fully reading books at 4. So that was something that this past summer actually was when he was 4, and I challenged him to read 100 books, and he was able to do that. So you're able to get the kids' brains are amazing if you just give them that opportunity to, learn it, because all that information as young as they are is going into their brains so much earlier. But I do have cards that like say things like Sam and Max, and we go through these different cards with my daughter, and she definitely recognizes them and says the words, and can even sound things out. So, and she's 2.5. So and I don't spend a ton of time on this stuff, guys. Like, that's the coolest part about it, is it doesn't take a lot of time. It's all about the consistency. And it's like just putting it in front of their face and just going through and not testing them, which is you'll see in my programs that I talk about that a lot. Thanks for the question. Can you also have a quick session about flashcards? Okay, flashcards, I do. I mean, those are in my brain building checklist, because flashcards are really important. So I've actually got some right here. Having, if you can see, I'm sorry, there's a little bit of glare. But I can have words bright in red, that tends to catch your child's attention a little bit better. And then having a picture associated with it, so that you can work it that way. And things that they're interested in. I also love flashcards like this, just being able to say daddy and getting them to understand and see that. A lot of the times I'll do this and I'll be like, who is this, Aria? And, sometimes she gets it right, sometimes she doesn't. At this age, especially 2 and under, it's going to be hard to test them. Sometimes they're going to get it, sometimes they're not going to get it. It's kind of like colors. I feel like she's good at colors now, but before it was like, oh yeah, that's red and it's actually blue. And so, a lot of the times you just have to trust the process and just constantly be introducing them to new things. The coolest thing that I think I learned from the Domain Institute is, you can be teaching them, oh, here's a monkey, or, here's a cow. But what if you actually take it a step further and I have a whole bunch of cards of monkeys. And so we'd go through and be like, here's the largibbon, and this is what the largibbon does. And here's a bamboo, what are they called? Anyways, and so a chimpanzee, or, we have all these different things. My kids know all of those things, right? Because they loved it. They loved getting to know all these. And then my son would be hanging off the monkey bars and he'd be like, Mom, look, I'm a largibbon. It's like, he could be just saying like a monkey, but because I've just introduced into this stuff, guys, they want to learn it. Like, if they're obsessed with trucks, show them all the different kinds of trucks, what the brands are, all of these things, because they can take in all that detail. And it's just so good to just nourish their brain with information, because then it makes learning so much easier. So I love flashcards for that exact reason. I make a ton of my own, but I also buy them. So I would love to do something on flashcards. I'm not exactly sure what the setting would be, but maybe we can get into that. I think that with my brain building program, they are in there though. A bit off topic, but do you mind sharing what you did during during pregnancy to help with head control? Absolutely. So I think I did talk about it specifically one day. I can't remember which day it was. But anyways, lots of squats, lots of exercise, right? Especially in that third trimester. So not too much that I was like running, like losing my breath or anything, but making sure there's a lot of movement when you're pregnant is one of the most important things to get that strength there. I had a home birth midwife. I had my kids at home. She specifically told me, she's like, you can totally tell the moms that work out during their pregnancy versus the moms that don't by the strength of their babies. And I think that's really amazing. But then you can even go a little bit further and look at the exercising during pregnancy increases the blood flow to the brain of the baby, right? Because you're sharing blood. And so that's something I always felt like was like, even if I felt horrible, I would be like, oh, I'm going to feel better about myself as a mom if I just get up and move a little bit and make sure I get my heart rate up. And so I think those two things are really important, but those are the big ones. Squats also really does a lot for you to help prepare you for birth and your pelvis for birth. So lots of not super deep squats, but just keeping that pelvis moving makes a really big difference as well. Thanks for asking that. Any other questions today? Great. Thank you so much, guys. It was such an awesome time. I would love to hear your feedback. I would really actually appreciate that, whether you reply to one of the emails or send something specifically on YouTube or whatever it is. I would appreciate the feedback. I would love to provide more programs like this. And if you guys have programs out there that you're like, dang, I wish there was this. I have so much knowledge. I'm obsessed with baby brain development, kid brain development. So I'd love to design those for you. So please send them my way. And again, super grateful for you guys. And congratulations on taking these steps to make your kids so much smarter, so much more physically superb. And again, thank you for being here. Have a great day.